Hey everybody, this is the May 2023 Becker Patreon session, Tinderbox session. Welcome. With me today is Paul Christie, and we're going to go and review a project he's working on, as well as if we have some time at the end, I'll talk about how to build your social media strategy in Tinderbox. Okay, so Paul, what do you got? Why don't you show us, so we're doing an extension from what we did last month. Let's see what you
Yeah, so if you remember last month, I was kind of struggling with figuring out a build your second brain and see what that looked like. So for the last month, I've been using it every day and adding to it. And Michael, can you see it on your screen?
I can.
Okay, so sometimes I get fancy and I'll write some action code to do some things, and of course all my action code seems to come from things you've already pioneered, so that helps me. Sometimes I'm just dragging things around to make it work. So what I've lighted on right now as a way to use Tinderbox to kind of track everything that's going on in my life, which for me is 4 or 5 nonprofit board memberships and other things. I have decided after last month, where I was very folder heavy and moving everything into folders, I decided to have a folder called raw, into which everything goes. It's kind of like an inbox. As I'm working through the day, I just create things in raw. You can see it's got 82 documents in it right now, or notes. And then as time permits, or as the workflow requires, I go into raw and I move things around, or more likely I assign prototypes to them. And what that allows me to do is have agents like open tasks, which lists all the things that are in my raw folder, which I've tagged as a task. Or I more logically, I have an agent called the week of, and it pulls all the events or meetings based on prototypes that are in the week of. We're in week 19 of 2023 at this point. And so you see there's 16 events this week. I guess if I was clever, I would roll out things that are past already, so this thing only reflected what was left in the week, but I haven't done that yet. And so I kind of work from this. And the nicest thing is using views within Tinderbox. I always have a view that looks at the container that is this agent for the week of, and I can see what's going on every single day of the week, and click on a particular item, and I've got all the attributes and notes for that item. So it turns out to be a really nice way for me to just keep track of what's going on in my world and move things around.
That's wickedly cool. Now, in terms of, your point about, checking things off when they're done, that could be really an effective method and tool. So if we could explore helping you with that and building a little bit of action code with that.
Yeah.
We could also talk about, like, where do you want, what do you want to do with items that are closed? Do you just want to, like, address them so that they are essentially just striked through, or do you want to actually move them somewhere else? I mean, those are other things that we could explore.
Yeah.
I think one affordance we could give you is that idea of facilitating, helping show when things are closed or not, work out pretty well.
Yeah.
So
back it up just a little bit. What do you think of the idea of just having a folder where everything goes, and then you use agents or just drag and drop to put things into it? The reason that works for me is, lots of stuff happens during the day, and I'm creating notes all over the place, and I am then doing linking, because linking is pretty flexible in this product. And then I use agents to pull things out of raw, or if I just drag and drop them into other folders if I need to. Well, one of the things that happens is I get duplicates all the time. So say I have a meeting, and following the talk that we had with our meeting, I like the idea of having entities and participants in every meeting. But sometimes I get bollocksed up when I add a couple participants, and it turns out that I've already added them in other meetings or events, and I end up getting duplicates in my contacts folder.
And why do you think that is? I mean, is that because you're spelling the name differently, or?
Well, so that's a question. It could be two reasons. One, I could be, fat fingering the name so I get a double, or two, I might have some action code that is throwing it in and just created an extra one. But the basic concept is that it wouldn't, Tinderbox on its own wouldn't create a duplicate name
The
note.
fundamental idea there is Tinderbox on its own, if the note name already exists, won't create a new one.
Okay, so I didn't grasp that one.
Right. So it's depending on the action code. So remember, so the last time we worked on this, we produced action code that would automatically create a note for you when you put it into the people folder.
Right.
And so therefore it shouldn't be creating a new note if that person already exists in that calendar.
Gotcha. Okay. I think I
By the
lost.
way, where did you get your icons? I like your little people icons and stuff like that. Where'd you get those?
So I go out to Flat Icon,
Okay.
flaticon.com, I think it is. And I think it's actually a paid subscription. I pay for it because I use it across a bunch of different projects, but it allows you to download a PNG of a little icon and assign it to things. And I really find the link between an icon and the product to be reinforcing for me. So I really like to spend time on it.
I do too. And so I'm going to steal that like immediately this afternoon. As you know, I use badges all the time, but I'm liking the colored badges as well. And so that's a really nice little thing as well. And just to show people that, if you don't mind, if you can kind of like click on the person icon next to your P person.
Yeah, right there.
Right, and click on that, and then you see where it says user, everyone. That's what's happening here is Paul has put in his own user generated attributes. And so Paul, if you don't mind, if you go up to help and you go to reveal support folder in Tinderbox.
Yes.
Right. So what he's doing is where it says badges, the badges folder, that's where those are going. So he's putting his own user generated attributes into the badges folder, and that's how those are showing up in his directory.
Yeah, and a shortcut is I drag this badges folder to the left in the Finder, so it's always there. So when I go to, in my case, Flat Icon, and I find something and I download it right away into badges, so it's immediately available to me.
Right. Now, there's another thing I do. I actually keep all of my media folder, media stuff like that in another directory. And then what I use is an application called Hazel.
Oh yeah, I've got Hazel.
So that when I add an item to my media folder, it automatically will copy that copy that image over to the Tinderbox badges folder. Because personally, I don't like keeping things that are important to me in an application subdirectory, because if I ever delete that, not that I'd ever delete Tinderbox, but if I ever deleted that application, in theory, I'd lose all of that stuff that I put in the application support folder.
Yeah.
So I like keeping a record of that in somewhere else.
So back up a little bit. When you say you have a media folder, you have a folder on your root drive in Finder that essentially is all the media used for all projects?
Correct. So that way I've got articles and images or specific projects or my Tinderbox programs and all that. So because what I've learned from Tinderbox is that, using this idea of atomic notes. And so for me, any media or videos goes in one place. And so therefore I always know it's there. And then I can use tools like Tinderbox or Hazel or Text or whatever my other tools are to always know if I need to resolve media, I go to that one place to get it.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to steal that one back.
Because that one is that's real, and I can demonstrate it to you, because then what you can do then too is when you're writing your Tinderbox code, you have an attribute called media file name, which you do. We created that for you before. If you look at that note right there, and so and then all of your paths to the media file names are always resolving to the right place.
Yep.
Never have to worry about where you put them.
Yep. Very good.
Okay, so I love it. Now, what else were we talking about? So I think so going back to your question about the raw folder. I
Yeah.
think it's amazing. I think it's actually in line with what Sasha and Sanke Aronson, we all talked about over the last 2 weekend Tinder models.
Yeah.
Using this methodology of note taking, or Piaget-Forte second brain, things like that. There's this idea called the fleeting note. There's this idea called the raw note. There's this idea called the unprocessed note. There's this idea of, I had an idea, it's a half thought, I'm sticking it in this place, and then as that other people use this term called the Zettelkasten note, or the Zettel, or whatever term you want. The permanent note is the other idea. And there's an interim step between that fleeting note and it becoming a more permanent note. And that step is put it in your own words, cite it, basically refine it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that step between raw and refinement, I think personally, is really important.
Yeah.
So I think so. In other words, I do it too. Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's the way it's the way I would like to get better at it, frankly. Part of my challenge is I've got literally like, you've got your 5 nonprofits. I've got like 20 projects.
Yeah.
In 3 different domains, and so my brain's a bit scattered. But hopefully, as I mature, I'll be able to refine that a little bit.
Well, so one of the things
that great idea.
One of the things that was really instrumental to me was reading, and I think I cited it in last Sunday's meetup, reading Mark Anderson go on in the forum in a very cogent paragraph where somebody in the forum had posted and said, oh, I like to use this app for this, and I like to use this app for this because it works better for me. And he basically broke it down and he said, there's apps out there that force you into a certain paradigm. And so the UI in that app forces you to work within a plex or within a certain framework, and you think that is your structure that defines your brain. But the fact is you're letting the app tell you how your brain or your second brain should be constructed. And I found that really seminal in my thinking. And what I realized is the raw or inbox folder, whatever, where everything goes in Tinderbox, the way I've constructed it allows me to then make decisions about where things belong after I've collected them, kind of like the fleeting note to the permanent note, and then use agents to pull things out based on what matters. I don't need to have a task folder. I don't need to have a calendar folder because Tinderbox natively does all that for me.
Correct. And the other thing about that is, how do I word it? There was a so when I talk about it, the references I'll use is the puppy mill software, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Keynote, Numbers. They force you into their model of thinking, as you just said. They force you into, this is how you do it. So like when you're writing Word, this is how you write a linear document. This is how you write a presentation. Yeah. This is how you write a tabular thing. But the problem is that is output. And what's happening there is and the way I tend to talk about it is they're combining in what your output contribution. I call it working in output software, where they are combining your content with their structure and appearance. Yeah. And when you do all of that, then you have a difficulty of unteasing that apart when you want to. Whereas what I call Tinderbox is what I refer to it as input software. And what that means is that you can input whatever you want, like into a raw note, and then you can apply templates, aka HTML and CSS, and you can then apply the CSS for appearance. And now you have the ability to take your content and put it into any structure or any appearance you want.
Right.
Whether or not that be linear, whether or not that be a bulleted list, whether or not that be a PowerPoint, whether or not that be a tabular representation. Like Excel. And I think once you grok that, it's incredibly powerful.
Yep. And I know we don't want to talk about specific products, but there, Sanke Aronson,
specific products. That's fine.
Sanke Aronson last Sunday talked to about the fact that he's kind of discovered and uses Obsidian to do his fleeting notes, and I've tried that too. The problem is I end up spending 70% of my time in Obsidian figuring out new ways to use the data, or new ways to build folders, and very little time working on the actual data. When I'm in Tinderbox, I'm always working on my information and my notes. Like you just probably saw me in the background, I saw that I had a couple notes that weren't in my raw folder, so I just dragged them in there. There was no overhead at all. And now I've got a place where I can store them. So I'm not overly concerned with the interface of Tinderbox.
Right.
I'm more concerned with what's in it.
Well, and again, I think this is what's really, really a powerful concept. So if you don't mind, do file new for me.
Yeah.
So when people first approach the Tinderbox, they see this. And there's a new file should have appeared somewhere, probably in another screen.
Let me make sure I'm sharing the right thing here.
Oh, you were sharing your desktop, I think.
Let's see. Do you see it now?
Nope. I think it might be on another monitor.
Yeah, I got two monitors going here. Let's see.
When you hit file new, it probably opened up on another monitor.
How's that one?
Nope, still don't see it. Go to. Nope, we don't need to see your calendar. You got multiple screens?
I do.
Or mission control. There you go. Right. Okay. So when people first get exposed to Tinderbox, they open this up and they're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Right. And that's very, very off-putting, right? Because when we've been lulled into complacency with the puppy mill software that says this is how you do it, right? Here are the buttons to make it easy. And as as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. With Tinderbox, you are responsible for your thinking. You're responsible for how your brain works. You're responsible for figuring out how to use the right tool for the right job. And for example, it's not that I don't use Microsoft Word, but I use it at the end of the process as a means of output, not as a means of curating my input.
Right.
And so this can be very off-putting for people, and that's why. And Mark Bernstein, I believe, has made conscious choices of not turning on defaults, not telling you what to do. This is the tool set, right? And then it's up, and then you get to learn how to do that. And again, since it's a small team, they're not, we're not worried about making it pretty, and I'm not saying I'm maybe Bernstein about all of the bells and whistles of the design being turned on, because he doesn't want to make those choices for you.
Yeah. I
really think that's what it comes down to is, he's letting you make the choices for you. And that's the powerful aspect of the tool. Let's go back to your file then. Yep. So there's a couple kind of behaviors I think that we can help you with. In that if you go down to your if you go down to your, let's go to the hints folder, and go to your library. Okay, and why don't we go ahead and create a new function called, well, you have one right there called fchecked. What are you doing there?
I was playing with the idea of if I've got something with a checked folder, what am I going to do with it? And so I was just seeing what the effect of fchecked could be.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where I was going. So let me go ahead, if you don't mind, or let me walk you through it. So so you say if fchecked equals true, which is exactly what I would do. Now, right before the $ color,
yeah,
once you put in a line break
inside the parens,
yeah, or the brackets.
Okay.
No, in front of the bracket. Sorry. Hit enter. Now tap 3 lines in, three spaces in. Okay, and then after the else, before the bracket. No, sorry, before the else, before the bracket, put your mouse in.
Like there?
No, one more in. Hit enter. And then at the end of the line, the bracket and the semicolon, right? Hit enter. Okay, so this is and then with the else, go ahead and in front of the else, in front of the bracket and before the else, hit three dashes. No, be in front of the bracket. Okay.
Okay, so we're just structuring the code.
So for readability, this is the best way to do it. So because if you look, you say you have an if, and then if your line goes down, you see the closing bracket for the if.
Yeah, yeah.
Then if you have an else, you see the opening closing bracket for that. So this is a really nice way to construct your code, and it makes it a lot easier to write it. So
Yeah.
in front of the else, where it says $color,
Yeah.
hit enter, and then hit three dots, and then 3 more dots. Okay, so now you can kind of see, the better the structure of what's going on with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, so now and then also too, we can immediately see, I don't want to call it an error, but for consistency's sake, you'd want to put a semicolon after the bright green and after black, after the quotes, right? Because that's now telling you those are the ends of the lines of commands.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and here's one for you. At the end of the bright green line,
yeah.
Hit enter and hit $, and say name, capital N, capital S, strike.
Got you down here.
Yeah. Equals true, lowercase. Okay, semicolon. All right. And then on the next one, say name strike equals false.
I mean color. Oh, down
No,
here.
after black, yeah. Okay. All right. Now, so what that's doing then, so let's go ahead and you see your code is if check. So go to your prototype now. And go to one of your items like an event. And hit Command 1. Go to your Death Star, click on the rule or edict, doesn't matter.
I think I've got it in an edict.
Okay, and hit enter. And say F checked, parentheses.
That's it?
semicolon. There you go. Okay, hit enter, so it saves. All right,
Okay.
oh, yeah, you're on the latest version, got it. All right, hit close. Now go up to one of your notes that you've finished.
That's an event.
That's an event.
Let's see, here's an event.
Okay, and I noticed in your prototype, you don't actually have the checked box. So go down to your prototypes and add the checked box back in.
Oh, yeah. I think I keep prototypes open down here for that ease of fixing. All right, so gotta go here and add. Find as I go along with doing what you're talking about right now, it helps me to think about the correct order of all these entities if I'm going to show them. So sometimes I'll move those around, but
no, I move them around all the time.
yeah. All right, so we're back up here. I've got an event, and here it is.
Okay, now click checked.
Beautiful. That makes a huge difference.
Dude, it's everything, isn't it?
It's everything, yeah.
Now
So
hit
now
uncheck.
I don't have to scroll through this thing. There's an instant visual key.
Correct. Now hit uncheck. Now uncheck it.
Yeah, it's an instant thing.
Okay. Now here's the other thing you might want to do. You could have you could create another attribute for yourself called due date.
In the prototype?
Right. So if you had another attribute for called due date, or date due, which we already have. Look at that.
So we use due date.
Let's see. First one, due date.
Right.
Okay, and then move that up to like your dates. Just move that up.
So move it this way. Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, and I put it above the start date. Right. So think about this. The due date is that when you create an event, the date, and this is mostly for tasks, not necessarily events. But the due date is the date that task is due. The start date is the date you start the task. The end date is the date you end the task.
Right.
Okay? Now, in the case of this, now go back to your action code, or go back to your library. Now watch this one. You're gonna like this.
Okay.
Checked. Okay. Now I wouldn't necessarily. Do you really want it to be black, or do you want it to be the standard default grayish color?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I was just playing with colors.
Right. So once you make just make the standard default grayish color.
Is it
And
just called
by the
gray?
way, no, just delete the tasks. Delete
Ah.
the quotes. Right. So if you say color equals semicolon, what that tells Tinderbox is to default it to whatever the default system value is for that attribute.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, what I want you to do here is on the checked.
Yeah.
After name strike, add a new line. Say $ end date equals date, lowercase, semicolon, parenthesis, now. Right. So and then underneath, why don't you say you can just copy that line too. Say end date end date.
Down here.
Yeah. And this one you now want to say equals, get rid of the date now. So make it nothing, or make it never, equals quote never. Right. So now what you're doing, now go ahead and go create a new event, because I don't want to mess up one of your existing ones. Just randomly somewhere, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right. Now, okay, the reason why it disappeared. So here's a little muscle memory thing for you.
Yeah.
Hit the raw, hit shift, option shift enter. Now randomly type any piece of text immediately. Just type text on your keyboard. There you go. No,
Yeah.
just yeah. So that then secures the note. Now you can always go back and change the name.
Gotcha. I have run into this problem over and over. Okay.
Right. So I just like randomly, whatever random set of characters come out of my.
Right.
Okay. And now if you check that.
Ah, yeah. All right. There it goes. And you've got the end date in there. Yeah.
Now uncheck it.
Very good.
So if you hadn't finished it, if you realize now I didn't actually really finish it, it reverts back.
Yeah. Yeah. Clean, neat, uncomplicated.
Yes. Now you can make it complicated. Like I've overcomplicated a lot of mine. So what I find what I find too is over time, I've made things. So a lot of my Tinderbox work is I've made things complicated. And then over time, I realize, it didn't need to be that complicated. I can simplify it. I can move it down. So the other thing that I'll do is go back to your prototype. And on your event, and I would go ahead and add it. And this might be a level of complication you don't want, but add a new attribute and type status. Okay, click away.
Must have been in there already.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's already up there. Roll it up to the top. Okay. Now, for me, what's the status of this event? Is it in progress? Has it been started? Has it not been started? Is it completed?
Right.
Right? Because later, that's a value, that's an attribute value you can search on. Give me every event that's in progress. Give me every event that's not been started. Give me every task that's been completed or not completed.
Right.
So you might put it on your to-dos as well, your tasks.
So status has to be a set, right?
Yeah, status would be a set. So now go back to your action code. No, not your action code, your hints.
Okay.
Okay. Now in there where it says end date underneath that.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead there and enter and say status equals like quote in hyphen progress. Right. So if you unchecked it, or actually, no, you don't want to do that. Leave it blank. Move that up to completed. Or no, status equals nothing. Status equals, like when it's unchecked, what do you want the status to be?
Right, if it's unchecked, status equals not started.
Okay. Now, and check, think about your capitalization. Do you want it lowercase or capitalized?
Right. Like that.
And do you want started lowercase or capitalized? Okay.
All right.
And then and when it's checked, what do you want it to be?
When it's checked, it's completed.
Yep, or complete.
There we
Okay.
go.
Now go back to and you see by how it's nice having the line breaks between your action code.
Yeah,
Writing of the code that way just makes it so much easier.
yeah, easy to find. So we've now got
Oh,
this.
look, it's already done it automatically.
Yeah. There we go.
And so
Instant.
now later you can run a Boolean that says, give me not everything, not only don't give me everything checked, give me everything that's not started, give me everything that's complete, give me everything that's in progress.
Yeah. And so is there a lot of overhead to having a lot of agents? I mean, is a mature document with a lot of code agent heavy? Does
Well,
that matter?
yeah, no, it does. Well, let's ask your question a little bit. Are you referring to agents? Or are you referring to action code?
I'm referring to agents. So
Okay. All right. So then let's just, for those that are listening, let's just be different. I have tons of, I probably have 6,000 or 7,000 action code scripts running in my Tinderbox files all the time. Now, I have an M1 Mac 2 super duper machine, so you know, I got the processing power to handle that. Agents are constantly running, so it depends on the size of your file, right? And it depends on how much code you have running, and it depends on if your code's stepping on itself or not.
Yeah.
But a file of your size, not at all. It's not going
Yeah.
to impact you at all.
Okay.
But here's the beautiful thing about Tinderbox. If you find that it does start impacting you, you unwind it. And let me give you an example of how to unwind it. So go down to your prototypes. And okay, create a new prototype called P agent. You're going to like this. Okay, and where the displayed attributes is, go add a few displayed attributes for me. And you want to add agent query, agent action, and agent priority. Okay, click away. Now add a badge to that agent. And I'll show you the one I like. You have all your user generated attributes, which are cool. But if you go to symbols, and if you go scroll down, see the one on the right there next to the light bulb, right in the middle, all the way to the right, the little heartbeat thing, the little mountains.
Right here.
Yeah, I see that as like a circadian rhythm, and like in your doctor's office, it's like a heartbeat. It's always running. So for me,
Gotcha.
that's visual for an agent.
Very nice. Okay.
So go put that to your agents.
Oh, you mean in the up here?
Yeah.
Nice.
Apply that on your agents. You can buy you can, but before you do that, no, wait. Select all the agents all at once with the command key. Now do it. Okay.
Gotcha.
So now you visually see that those are agents because they've got the little circadian rhythm thing on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now here's another one. Hit the command key and hit one of them. That's how you can unselect as well.
Okay, like that.
Yeah, and it just like, you know, and let me do this. Hit Command A just to show you an accident. So you've selected everything. How do I unselect everything? Hit Command and then click one of the notes. Now hit right where that white space is.
Right here.
Yep. And that deselects everything.
Gotcha. I run into that problem a lot too. Yeah.
I do too. It drove me bananas until I figured that out.
Very nice.
Okay. So now look at what we've done. Now, you see where that little one is?
Yeah.
If you make that a -1, that turns the agent off.
Ah.
Okay. So
every agent has got its code. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So let's go down to your checked again. Let's go down to the hints.
Yeah.
And in your F checked, why don't you add another line, create a whole nother block. No, 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 no. Go down to the bottom right there, hit enter. And now what you want to say, if checked, or actually if, not if checked. And this is where I wouldn't necessarily call this checked. For me, this function would be status update or something like that, because, because what this whole function is going to be around is around managing the status of your notes.
Okay.
So go ahead. If $agent priority, how do we want to do this? If $agent priority equals -1.
Equals or double equals?
Yeah, double equals.
Okay.
You were right. Parenthesis, little bracket. Now what would we do now? Enter. Right, good. 3 dots. Perfect. All right. Say $color equals red or bright red. New line. Displayed display expression equals quote off
Say that again.
OFF colon space, that's a semicolon, space quote plus $name semicolon, hit enter, bracket else. And actually, you don't want to indent that. Actually, I was wrong on that one. Leave that there, and we'll fix the one up there. Else, bracket, else, no space. It doesn't matter, but I prefer not having the spaces. Bracket. Hit enter. Okay, and then say 3 dots. Color. Oh, and get the space out in front of the else. And what color would you want it to be? I don't know, what is that, a red?
The other one was a red, yeah, bright red.
Just get red.
Blue.
No, don't make it red. Go back to normal.
Oh, just like that?
No, color equals red. Red's not the normal color, so you've done something there. Hit $, or hit as okay, and then say display expression equals, and then just the semicolon. Okay, hit enter, and then close curly bracket with semicolon.
All
No,
right. Like
don't indent. Don't indent.
Okay, don't indent this.
No. And let's go fix the other one above. The semicolon, 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 semicolon.
Here.
Okay. So now look along the line. You've got an if statement that then says there's an else statement, and then it closes. So we've got to go up and fix the other one. Get the one above.
Yeah.
Get these spaces in front of the else away.
In
front of the else statement, you have 3 spaces in front of the, delete those. Okay. And then move those 3 spaces in front of the other lines below it, just so it's underneath the else.
You mean these?
Yeah. Right there, stop. Right.
Okay.
So what you're doing is you're saying if do this stuff, else do that stuff, close the function or close the action code.
Right.
This is a cleaner way to write the code.
Yeah.
Right, because now you can then see, it's easier ways to eyeball what's going on. And so then you want to move put a couple more spaces in front of the color red. Now, none of this is necessary. The code doesn't care. This is for you as the human trying to read it.
Right.
Right. And what this also allows you to do is, if you did a nested set of else's, you're going to now see if there's another else after that last else, you can then nest them down, and it visually helps you see it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing we've learned here, in front of your comment you made, put a couple lines just to make it easier for you to read. Right. So what you're also learning here too is in a function, you can have multiple arguments. And you can have multiple functions as well. So
in a single function file.
Yeah. And so for me, this is why I wouldn't necessarily call this checked. I would call it like F status update. Right? Because it's not, we're looking at different statuses. We're looking at, is the priority set, is where we're looking at, is something checked or not?
Right,
it's just more, that way you kind of reduce how many files you've got. All your status stuff is in one place.
Yeah.
Okay. Now go to your agent prototype.
Okay. Where is it here?
Hit command 1. All right. And now you want to say F checked, because that's what we've called the parenthesis. No. Okay. Right click away. And now you can kind of see why the logic doesn't make sense, because this is not a matter of whether or not it's checked or not.
Yeah.
And go ahead and make that -1 now. Okay, click away. All right. And we did something wrong because our display expression.
It became red.
It did, but we did something wrong with the display expression. Hit command 1 for me real quick. And click the little T.
This one, which is the key?
T, the letter T, Tom.
Oh, T. Yeah.
Right. So it should say agent. So your display expression is that. So do you have something else changing your name? Yeah, no, that was good. Display expression. It did that right. So why is your display expression not showing?
So. Oh, I didn't. Yeah, no, I got quotes. Okay.
No, the name is right. Display expression, because it changed it too. Like if you go back, do you mind if I take control real quick? I'm getting.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm finding myself wanting to poke around, see what's happening. So this should actually have changed your display expression. So if we change it back to 1, right, you'll see what it's going to do. And we go like this. That went back fine, right?
Yeah.
And let's see, do you have a display expression cache? So why is your, and you'll see, and let's see. Yeah, so you see, there's something going on that's reverting. That's weird. Why is that? There's something happening that's reverting this note's display expression. And I think the agent, I have a feeling I know what it is. It's a prototype. It's not of that. And you've got your notes in as markdown. That's not inheriting from there. So let's just double check something. So when you're doing this kind of debugging, it's interesting too. You notice how when you're creating all of your new notes, they're all being created red by default.
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
Oh, that was a Mark Anderson forum post where he basically said you want to clue yourself in if something's at the root level. So I've got that code that does that.
Where is that?
That code is well, it's everywhere. I mean, if you look at here, if outline depth equals 1, color equals red.
Got it.
I mean, it's not necessary. It was
No,
just.
no, I was just wondering where it was coming from. That's fine. I
Yeah.
get it. All right, so now let's double check something though. So if we go here and we'll say, okay, so your display expression is working. So you see how this is a test note and that says test.
Uh-huh.
So we know that the display expression is working, but on this particular agent, it's not. Right, it's getting automatically reset to nothing for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's go here. And all we have there is a checked. And I could see here if all right. Okay, and it's being reset because that's not -1. So if I now make this -1, should turn red. It does, but for some reason, it's not showing the displayed expression.
It's enabled.
And look, it looks as if, you notice how the text is. It's
It's slightly indenting.
Yeah, it's slightly indenting, so it's trying to do it.
Maybe the word off is triggering it somehow. I don't know.
It shouldn't, but let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, so we may,
Now-
I don't want to call it a bug just yet, but we
Yeah.
may have found
The word off is triggering something.
that or it's the colon that's triggering it.
Oh, now it worked.
No, I know what
colon,
it is. I
yeah.
think it's this.
Yeah.
We put that in.
Yeah, that's it.
So their colon in the display expression,
Problematic.
problematic. And I don't know why that is. That makes no sense to me. So I'll report that to Mark.
Yeah, interesting.
Right. And it also has removed that space. Right. So if I go up here, I'm wanting a space in front of the front of the thing, and it's not. So we'll report that to Mark. I think that's something.
Doesn't like the word off.
No, it loves the word off. It doesn't like the punctuation.
Okay.
Right. It doesn't like that there being a hyphen or a colon there because there's the off. So now when we do this, one on.
Yep.
So that way, so the reason why we did this, you asked me this question is, does Tinderbox mind if there's a lot of agents? No, it doesn't. But if you find yourself having a lot of agents, just turn them off.
Yeah.
Now you have the visual to be able to know, okay, that one's off. I know to turn it on later.
Yeah. Very, very nice. Very nice.
You know, so, and again, and we've learned a lot in doing this, right? Because what we've learned here is, display expression, agents, prototype use. We've covered how to write some functions. We've covered that you can have multiple aspects and functions as well. Here's the other way to handle that idea. You see see this as what? Here's the other interesting idea. We can call this note checked and status. Okay.
Yeah.
Now watch what I'm going to do here. Okay, So what we just taught, what we just covered there is the node of the name doesn't matter about the functions. That's just the node,
I'm just learning that.
right? That's just the name. That's just the node of the name. What matters about the functions is these,
Yeah.
right? And the reason why that function is not blue is it's a regex issue. If you got a line break there, then that is this function there.
Right.
So what Tinderbox does is when it periodically goes through and looks in the hints folder and says, okay, I've got a function called check, and I've got a function called status.
Yeah.
And so now this worked for you. Now I've got, wherever I have any kind of functions where I want checked or status updates, I can put all of those functions in this note called checked and status. And that's where I'll find all of the functions I'm running to do, manage my checked, manage my to-dos, manage my agents, etc.
And I can use the functions independently.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these functions are now independent. And here's the other interesting thing, and we're not going to necessarily do it, but I can actually do this. A function can trigger a function.
Oh, we're within that. Okay.
So I could say if checked, do this, and if it, and then also trigger that function. So you can string functions together that way.
Yeah, yeah, very nice, very nice. Lots of ideas to work on here.
Now, and here's the other thing too, is you can not only can string functions, you can actually pass results. And we won't do that right now because we're kind of running out of time, but you can pass results from this function to this function.
Perfect.
By passing it values. So I could say something like this. We could say like, my string test, right? And then in here, we could say, and then you can
watch the capitalization in my string.
Yeah, I'll fix it. Yeah. Right. And then I could say, here's the input. And then I could say,
yeah, okay.
Right. So what we've now done here, let's see if that works. It should. Let's see. And it's not checked, so. All right, I'll figure it out. But we're running out of time. But you get the idea, and then undo all of those messiness. We can reset that back to its default, and then we go down here. But the idea is later, and we'll figure out the right. And I broke this. I broke the function here somewhere. Oh, you see how that is not
working. Close.
Didn't close, and I think it didn't close because of that. So now let's just double check. Let's see, just for fun, see if I figured it out. Because that's interesting. That agent got unchecked because of that check. And if I say my string, and now if I make that a -1, what did I do wrong here? So function f agent my string, and let's do it here. So we're saying my string equals test. We're now passing the value of my string to the function status agent, and then we're now passing that input to that agent's my string. And so there you go.
There it is.
That says test.
There it is.
So that's how so now what you see, that's how we can have one function perform an action and pass it to another function.
Right.
Okay. But obviously we don't want that here. So let's undo that.
Yeah.
All right. And we can uncheck that baby, go like this. I'm going to leave that shaft there, undo this, reset its agent, and we're good, back to go.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And let's make that, because we messed around with the colors, we'll go ahead and make that red, because that will eventually turn red, but we can force it right now. There you go. Okay, now that's interesting. Now, because this agent is 1, oh, I know why. And let's go back because we've made the color nothing. Right. And so what's interesting here is you have two competing action codes happening. You have this action code, which is saying, if you're at root, make me red.
Oh,
But now you have the other action code that's saying, if you're unchecked, make me green. Right. And
I bit myself.
So Tinderbox is now going back and forth, changing it red and gray. And you're not seeing it toggle because it's happening so fast.
Yeah.
The scenes now making it red and making it gray like a gazillion times a second.
I could solve it by having a container called agents running or something.
Yeah. Or there's a whole bunch of different ways to solve that.
Yeah.
Right. But that's why that's why you're like, why isn't that red? Well, that's why it's not red. It's your other agents overwriting it.
Yeah.
And now they're going back and forth with each other. Now we can fix that now, or you can think about it and play with it and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'll do that.
But yeah, so I think we covered a lot.
This is a big learning exercise, a lot of different things that happened that now I can put into place all over the place.
Yeah. And again, I think, and you can take the learnings that we learned about functions and the coding structure and all of that and just apply that everywhere, because that's those are universal learnings.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to make it so much easier. And just to kind of give you another sense, just while we're at it. So let's say you said, if checked this, else, you could also do else, and then you could have another if in here. You could say else if this, then
yeah. And you really need to start nesting well there.
Right. So that's the other way to do it, right? And then you'll see. So I've got this if here, which means, and then what you'll do is 1, 2, 3. So that if closes here. So that tells me, and then this else is going to close. So then I need to do that. And then that tells me I need one more. Like that. So this if is closing. So here's how you do it. So this if is closing here. And that's, there you go. Right. So what you say, if this, else this, and then do another if. Right. So that's how you can kind of eyeball it down. So this if is closing with this else if. This if is closing with this else if. And that's why that coding structure is super helpful.
Yeah, without new lines and indentations, you'd go nuts.
Yeah, you go nuts. You can't figure out where, like, if you'd accidentally made this not a semicolon but a colon, you'd go nuts. You'd never see it.
Yeah.
But doing this way now, you can instantly see it. You're going down like, okay, now I got to change it back to that.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
Yay, that was super fun.
Yep.
All right, man. All right.
Thanks,
So
Michael.
Thank you very much for joining the Patreon session. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like this, please join it and meet us every month.
Yep.
Paul, really appreciate it, man. Take care.
All right. See you next time.
Bye-bye.